the lowest price that it's ever going to be at. You're basically going to have free updates. The topics perhaps are too similar to warrant the creation of an additional category. In today's community building lesson, we'll be exploring why having too many features can indeed be detrimental for your community environment. We'll be going through the school.com community movement gems free, which will serve as an example for this particular lesson. So one thing that I noticed with this particular community movement gems is that they have a number of redundant categories. If you're unfamiliar with what categories are in the context of school or for online communities in general, the categories are these sections here that divide the forum into a multitude of subjects and topics for ease of interactivity. So in this case, if you have it selected under the all category, that means that you're exposed to every single one of these in a single forum feed. However, if you wanted to make things easier in terms of interactivity, for example, you wanted to catch up on just the announcements only, then of course you can just go and cycle through the announcements only and so forth. You get the point. It's not that difficult to understand. But in terms of redundant categories, that means that you have, for example, a minimum of 2 categories that are essentially the same. They serve the same purpose. The topics perhaps are too similar to warrant the creation of an additional category. They're too similar, in other words, these 2 categories. And in the case of Movement Gems Free, which we're using as an example today, the 2 categories that are just too similar, that create a sense of redundancy in this community and can lead to a host of issues, which we'll talk about in just a moment, is the general category and the exercise related category. The general category is the redundant one in this case. And why is that? Well, for context, Movement Gems Free is an exercise related online community. As you can see here in its description, school's largest, most active health and fitness community. So by that logic, wouldn't everything in this community be exercise related anyways? And that's literally what this category is called verbatim. It's called exercise related. So anything that pertains to exercise is discussed in this particular forum feed, which again makes sense because Movement Gems Free is an exercise-based online community. But then where does that place general? So if you click the general category, as you can see, all they're talking about anyways are exercise-related inquiries. So a calorie counting calculator, which could otherwise have been discussed in the nutritions category. Let's see, muscle, cardio, longevity, tightness and back. All of these subjects in the general category can simply just be discussed in the exercise related category or any of the other categories here, nutrition, sleep supplements, and so forth, depending on what the particular subject of whatever the post in question is. I say that the general category is redundant simply because everything in Movement Gems Free, a community based on exercise, is of course going to be exercise related. So why then would you need another category, a redundant category that covers exercise related things again, right? So in these 2 categories, both exercise related posts are being covered. So you might as well just have one and just keep the exercise related category. And in terms of the issues that having redundant categories presents for members is it stirs up a sense of confusion within them. Meaning that if you put this here, you're creating an extra avenue for members to engage with. And if you don't describe the differences between these 2 categories, what is the difference between the general and exercise related category? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory what is asked of a member to post in the exercise related forum. It's in the name, obviously, but general leaves too much to be figured out in terms of by the member. And of course, other communities have a general category, so it's not as if it's a foreign concept having a general category in your online community. The point is that you're leaving members to determine what that general category means for them in this context, right? Not only that, but redundant categories also dilute the general conversation that's happening in your online community because you're creating, again, an extra avenue that is dispersing and spreading the exercise related, in this particular community's instance, the exercise related conversation is spread out more thin across a multitude of categories. So the less categories you have, the less spread out the conversation is in the context of your community, which is what you want. You want a potent conversation to unfold. You want a potent atmosphere. You don't want to spread the conversations out too thin in your community. And again, that's what redundant categories can do. So just to cap things off here, there are too many categories in this community. Movement Gems Free is an exercise-based online community, meaning that by virtue of that, everything is going to be exercise related anyways. And because of that, the exercise related category is basically this community's general forum. So there is no point in having the general forum. It's pretty self-explanatory and intuitive as to what this particular forum category entails. It's in the name. Anything exercise related is discussed here, which makes it all the more confusing that when you go to the general category, they're just discussing exercise related things anyway. So it's like having two of the same category with one leaving more up for interpretation than the other. So you might as well get rid of the general category in favor of the exercise related one to make things more streamlined, simple, easy to understand for community members, and so that you're not also spreading out the conversation across a multitude of categories. With that in mind, if you are interested in community building, if you are building a community of your own, or you intend on managing a community, I have an online course that covers everything that I know regarding online community management, and it's just begun. It will be constantly iterated in the future. It will be the best online community building and management course in the world. And I don't say that for marketing jargon purposes. I really mean that. This is a long-term project that I'm playing the infinite game with, meaning that everything I learn, literally everything that I learn, I consolidate into notes and convert into these modules. So this is a course that is going to be constantly updated. And so if you buy into the community management kit now, which is at the lowest price that it's ever going to be at, you're basically going to have free updates for as long as you engage with this course. So it's really a great deal in that regard. I'm not the biggest fan of subscription services, so I really want members to benefit from a one-time payment if you enroll now. So if that's something that interests you, it's an amazing course. It's going to get better. It's only going to get better. And in terms of what's coming up soon in that course, an entire section dedicated to just onboarding, which includes, at the time of this recording, will include 5 additional modules. There's an entire bonus section, resources, etc. If that's something that interests you, I'll link it in the description below.